Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. His Excellency, my brother, Qurban Ali Pardi Muhammadov, President of Turkmenistan, distinguished brothers and heads of states, the Secretary General of ECO, His Excellency Ambassador Khosrow Naziri, Excellencies and guests, Assalamu alaikum. Let me begin by congratulating my friend, President Pardi Muhammadov, for assuming chairmanship of the 15th ECO Summit and for his excellent speech and laying down the direction for the future of ECO. I am sure that under your wise guidance and leadership, you will be able to successfully realize the objectives of this ECO organization as an organization and of the summit. I also thank my brother, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, for successfully organizing all events of the 14th summit during challenging times of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Chairman, throughout history, trade and economic exchanges and interaction have propelled production, growth, and prosperity. This historical process of economic integration continues to accelerate in the new times, especially with the advent of the digital age. To stay competitive, national and regional economies will have to move towards greater physical and virtual integration. Such integration is an economic imperative for the eco-region, and the theme you have chosen for this summit, Into the Future Together, is thus most apt and timely. The eco-region has all the elements needed for economic integration and rapid economic growth. It has rich resources, it has enterprising people, it has geographical contiguity and a common culture, it has a common heritage, and it has a common religion. Yet, for historical reasons, the ECO is among the least integrated regions in terms of trade, investment, finance, infrastructure, regional value chains, labor mobility, and social integration. So therefore, we have our work cut out. We need to do a lot. The intra-regional trade among ECO members is only 8% of their total trade. And if you compare this throughout the world with other regions, we will be surprised by how much trade can be enhanced by better integration. Unlocking the potential for regional integration will provide significant impetus to growth and development in all ECO member states. We must ensure implementation of the objectives agreed upon in the ECO Vision 2025 and the Islamabad Declaration adopted at our 13th summit. Free or preferential trade agreement within ECO, strengthening of regional institutions such as the ECO Trade and Development Bank, and the operationalization of the ECO Reinsurance Company, so that we should be independent of other markets. Ladies and gentlemen, connectivity today means much more than the road infrastructure, the railway infrastructure, the ability to transport goods through planes and the seafares, but the ability to transport intellectual know-how, the intellectual resources through the air. And that is where a virtual connectivity between ECO countries, within ECO countries, is going to lead us through into the new era. We should strongly advance the transport corridors, which the ECO has planned under Transit Transport Framework Agreement, TTFA. I welcome the operationalization of the Islamabad, Tehran, Istanbul ITI road corridor. The key to connectivity is peace in Afghanistan. We have all mentioned that today. And after 40 years of war, which has ended in Afghanistan, there is emerging humanitarian crisis. And the specter of economic collapse looms large because of winters coming in and the increasingly deepening liquidity crisis with the freezing of their assets. It threatens a financial and banking collapse. It threatens to bring chaos back into Afghanistan. And I believe strongly it is upon the Muslim Ummah to play its role in trying to guide Afghanistan into an era of peace and prosperity, because the prosperity in peace in Afghanistan is essential for peace and prosperity for the entire eco-region. We must all join in preventing such a disaster which is looming, which could revive chaos and conflict. But besides humanitarian assistance, we must render help to the Afghan people in the key sectors of health and education. Excellencies, we must come together to promote economic stability and sustainability of Afghanistan after 40 years of misery, war, killings, bloodshed, and total destruction of their infrastructure. We have all witnessed the negative impact of unilateral coercive sanctions in our region. Freezing of assets and banking restrictions worsen the human suffering and entail serious implications for regional peace, security, and prosperity. And who doesn't know better than the region, our brothers, Iran, and what happened in Iraq. So therefore, restoration of peace and stability in Afghanistan will also enable the early implementation of our agreed infrastructure and integration projects. The Tapi gas pipeline, the Kasa 1000 electricity grid, and Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan to Pakistan, the electricity grid will serve, and construction of the Uzbekistan-Pakistan railway line. There is a danger, if there is reduction in peace, there is a danger of refugees. And that brings me to a point which is very important, and I wanted to state at this forum, that when I look at the contribution of the Muslim countries in welcoming refugees in misery, Pakistan has done an outstanding job. We hosted 3.5 to 4 million refugees in their difficult times. Turkey is doing the same in these days. And I am surprised that those who sermonize us, who give us lessons on humanity, the West, when refugees go to the West, try to enter the West, they are allowed to drown, but they are not salvaged. So therefore, Excellencies, I am very proud of the fact that our Islamic teachings and our history gives us the lesson and shows us in the world that we are the people who can bring morality, principles of ethics into international cooperation rather than vested interest, rather than pure exploitation and total disregard of humanity. So therefore, it is upon the Muslim Ummah to bring about a change in international considerations and understandings. The restoration of peace and stability in Afghanistan will also enable the early implementation of all these projects. Mr. Chairman, all eco-economies have suffered severely due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some eco-members have suffered disproportionately with double-digit economic contraction, but Pakistan has been, by Allah's grace, relatively fortunate. Our strategy of smart lockdowns, our strategy of compassion, disbursing billions of rupees into the economy to the poor has done wonders. The COVID-related breakdown of supply chains has disrupted international trade and has triggered a global rise in inflation. Many of our countries are also suffering from inflation, which is up to 40% in some of the countries. Our consumers have had to face higher prices. Our government is providing massive, targeted approach help to the poor to cushion the impact of inflation. But in part, the global inflation in prices has been generated by the $27 trillion pumped in as a fiscal stimulus by the rich countries to revive their economies. Unfortunately, the developing countries have not been able to secure even a fraction of the $4.3 trillion they need to recover from the COVID crisis. The ECO should join other developing countries in promoting a common development agenda to return to the path of sustained and sustainable growth. As the next chair of the Group of 77 and China, Pakistan will propose such a development agenda, including 4 very important points which have exploited this world for the past century. Number 1 is a total new restructuring, redistribution of $650 billion new SDRs to developing countries. $650 billion redistribution and restructuring of SDRs. Large concessional financing, mobilization of the $100 billion in annual climate finance by the developed countries, which are mostly responsible for the global warming, but we are supposed to bear the burden. So therefore, money to the tune of $100 billion must flow towards our countries. And 3, ending the billions in illicit financial flows from the poor countries towards the developed economies, which happened throughout the last century and which has impoverished us over the last decades. And we also insist that we should get return of our stolen assets. An equitable trading system and a fair international tax regime is essential. Mr. Chairman, the ECO member states are all Islamic countries and members of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, and we look forward to your participation in the next OIC Foreign Ministers Conference in Islamabad on 23rd March next year, when Pakistan also celebrates 75 years of its independence. The ECO must also contribute to realizing our critical objectives. We must all work to reverse the rising tide of Islamophobia, which is rising anti-Muslim hate in Europe, in North America, and South Asia. There is legislation which is going on, which is entrenching Islamic hatred into the laws of countries. I would like to take this opportunity to again congratulate my friend President Aliyev on the recovery of Azerbaijan's territories from foreign occupation, and I appreciate his detailed input regarding what has happened. Pakistan continues to rely on fraternal, eco, and Islamic countries to support the exercise of the right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. They are in misery. They are reeling under India's illegal occupation and focusing, which is unspeakable oppression. I have read the Ashgabat Consensus for Action, which will come up for adoption, and I congratulate the drafting of that, and I wish all success to Turkmenistan's chairmanship of the ECO this year. Pakistan looks forward to equally to Uzbekistan as the next ECO chair. We are confident that under Uzbekistan's stewardship, ECO will continue its progress and emerge as a vital economic and political entity in the heart of Asia. And in the end, I must thank you, Your Excellency, the President of Turkmenistan, for the excellent hospitality we have received. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.